All right, so get ready because today we are diving deep into Jujutsu Kaisen.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
and we're going to be looking at the Hidden Inventory arc specifically.
Okay.
And, if you've seen the show or read the manga, this arc is famous for some pretty awesome fights.
Oh, yeah. Some of the best.
But like a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen, there's a lot more going on under the surface.
For sure.
So to help unpack all this, we're going to be looking at this really cool Reddit post that I found that really dives into the character analysis of this arc.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and the author of this post argues that Hidden Inventory is actually one of the best arcs in the entire series.
Wow. Bold statement.
Yeah, so we'll see if they can convince us.
Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, so one of the things that makes this arc so interesting is that it really is a turning point for a bunch of the main characters.
Absolutely.
We've got Riko Amanai, Toji Fushiguro, of course, Satoru Gojo.
Can't forget Gojo.
And Suguru Geto.
Yep. The big play.
Yeah, so this arc really throws them all into the fire, and we see how they come out changed on the other side.
Yeah, it's like a trial by fire for them.
Totally. So maybe we can start with Riko.
Okay.
I think she's often kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
But the Reddit post makes a great point about how central she is to a lot of the themes in this arc.
Yeah. She's definitely more than just a MacGuffin.
Right, exactly. Especially these ideas of like nostalgia and how futile it is to try and fight against fate.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, and it's brutal how Akutami handles this.
Oh, for sure.
Like, remember that moment when Yuki reveals that Tengen would have stabilized whether he merged with Riko or not?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it makes everything Gojo and Geto did to protect her just completely meaningless.
Totally. It's like such a gut punch.
It really makes you wonder, like, does anything they do even matter?
Right, like what's the point?
And it's especially significant for Gojo and Geto.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you see how Riko's death is this huge turning point for both of them, but in completely different ways.
Yeah, they go down very different paths.
Yeah, and Gojo almost loses it.
Yeah, he gets close.
Remember that chilling moment where he considers wiping out everybody who's celebrating Riko's death?
Ooh, yeah, like he's ready to just unleash.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's scary because you see that potential for like real darkness in him.
Yeah, and he's usually presented as just like this untouchable powerhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
So it adds like a whole other layer to his character.
For sure, like suddenly he's not so invincible anymore.
Right. He's got these vulnerabilities and inner conflicts.
And you can really see it starting to brew in this arc.
Okay, so speaking of complex characters, let's talk about Toji Fushiguro.
Okay, the infamous Toji Fushiguro.
Yeah, so he's the one who actually kills Riko.
Right.
And at first he comes off as just this cold-blooded assassin.
Totally. He's just there to do a job.
And the Reddit post talks about how he's like this embodiment of this fantasy of being like a detached badass.
Oh, yeah, like that totally emotionless killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think his actions, especially towards the end, suggest that there's like a lot more going on underneath.
Yeah, like he's not just a robot.
Right, like take his love for his son Megumi, for example.
Right, he does care about Megumi.
It ultimately leads him to fight Gojo, even though he knows he's totally outmatched.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And his heavenly restriction also plays a huge role here.
Right, tell me about that.
So it gives him these crazy physical abilities.
Okay, so super strength and all that.
Yeah, but it completely deprives him of cursed energy.
Ah, so he's like locked out of the whole Jujutsu world power system.
Exactly, and it makes you wonder if that's like part of what fuels his resentment and leads him down this violent path.
That's a good point. It's like he's rebelling against a system that's rejected him.
Totally. And his decision to fight Gojo knowing he can't win just shows how much deeper it goes than just being a detached killer.
It's like he's making a statement.
Yeah, and it's a statement that Gojo can't ignore.
And then you've got Gojo on the other side of that fight.
Right.
The guy who's considered the strongest jujutsu sorcerer.
Literally untouchable.
From birth.
It makes you wonder, like, why doesn't he just fix everything?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
And it's a question that Gojo himself struggles with in this arc.
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost like the Superman problem,
Right, like if you have the power to solve all the world's problems, why don't you?
Yeah, but then you run into all these other questions, like...
Yeah, like what happens then?
Do you become like this benevolent dictator?
Right, do you risk that power corrupting you?
Exactly. And it seems like Gojo understands that.
Yeah, he seems to be very aware of that danger.
He knows he can try to fix everything, but
what would the consequences be?
Right, and so instead he focuses on training a new generation of sorcerers.
Interesting. So he's passing the torch.
Yeah, in a way, I guess.
It's like his way of ensuring the world gets fixed, but without him having to be the one to do it.
Yeah, and that way he avoids becoming like this soul-corrupting force.
Yeah, I like that interpretation.
Like he's spreading the responsibility instead of taking it all on himself.
Right, and that really plays into his decision to become a teacher and nurture this next generation.
It's not just about teaching them how to fight curses.
It's about teaching them how to make the world a better place.
And how to wield power responsibly.
Right.
And that's a stark contrast to how Suguru Geto reacts to everything that happens in this arc.
Yeah, Geto goes down a very different road.
Yeah, his transformation is probably the most drastic.
It's intense.
Remember at the beginning, he's basically Gojo's equal?
Yeah, they're like the ultimate duo.
Both in terms of power and their friendship.
But they're best friends.
But then Riko dies, and Gojo awakens his reverse cursed technique.
Which, by the way, lets him heal himself using cursed energy.
Right, and Geto starts to realize that there's this growing gap between them.
Yeah, it's not just about power, though, right?
Right, it's not just jealousy.
It's deeper than that.
It's this feeling of futility that starts to eat away at him.
Like, what's the point of it all?
Exactly. And remember that scene after Haibara's death?
Oh.
When Nanami asks if they should just let Gojo handle everything from now on.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And it hits Geto hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just reinforces this sense of powerlessness that he's feeling.
Like he's not strong enough.
Yeah, and not just compared to Gojo.
But compared to this whole system of jujutsu sorcery.
He's starting to question the whole thing.
The endless cycle of curses and sorcerer deaths.
Yeah, like what's the point of fighting if everyone just ends up dying anyway?
It's a pretty bleak outlook.
Yeah, and it only gets worse from here.
Oh boy, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, buckle up because things are about to get really dark.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, so next time we'll pick up with Geto's descent, and we'll see how Toji's actions really shake things up for both Gojo and Geto.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Okay, see you then.
See, it's not just the dying though, right?
Yeah.
It's the like casual disregard for human life too.
Yeah.
You know how the jujitsu world treats non-sorcerers?
Yeah.
Riko's like the perfect example.
Yeah, she's just a means to an end.
Totally, just a tool to be used and discarded.
Yeah, and it makes you think like this whole system that Gojo's trying to uphold, it's built on this foundation of like inequality and exploitation.
Right.
So it's no wonder that Geto starts to question everything.
It's like he's looking at the same world as Gojo, but he's seeing it through this completely different lens.
Totally.
Gojo sees the need to like guide and protect.
Yeah.
But Geto sees like hypocrisy.
Yeah, and a broken system.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that Gojo, with all his power, chooses not to like fundamentally change the system just makes things worse for Geto.
Oh yeah, it just adds fuel to the fire.
He starts to believe that like a more forceful hand is needed.
Yeah, like the world needs a complete makeover.
Yeah, even if it means resorting to some pretty extreme measures.
Yeah, he's not messing around.
Which brings us to Geto's plan to create a world without curses.
Okay, the infamous plan.
Yeah, and the Reddit post actually argues that this is like a form of suicide for Geto.
Whoa.
Like a complete rejection of everything he once believed in.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy interpretation.
And I think there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah.
Because Geto's disillusionment is so deep by this point
Yeah.
that he's willing to like destroy everything in order to rebuild it in his image.
That's dark.
Yeah, it's a pretty tragic fall from grace for a character who started out with these really noble ideals.
Yeah, it's like the whole arc is about shattered ideals.
Yeah.
Like Riko's innocent hope for the future.
Yeah, Geto's belief in the jujitsu world.
Yeah.
Even Toji's like twisted vision of detachment, it all just comes crashing down.
Yeah, Akutami really doesn't pull any punches.
It's like he's forcing us to confront these like really dark aspects of this world.
Yeah.
Consequences of power.
The limitations of good intentions.
Yeah, and he doesn't offer any easy
Of
answers.
course, not at all.
So speaking of Toji,
Okay.
the Reddit post makes this really interesting connection between Toji's fight with Gojo and like this idea of a worm disrupting this perfect plan.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So remember how Tenjin merging with the star plasma vessel was supposed to be this flawless ritual?
Right, the thing that keeps the whole jujitsu world running.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then Toji comes in and just wrecks everything.
Throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah, he's this unpredictable, chaotic force.
Yeah. And he exposes all the flaws in the system.
He doesn't care about the rules.
He just does whatever he wants.
And that makes him super dangerous.
But also kind of liberating in a way.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of freedom in his like recklessness.
He's not bound by the same constraints as the sorcerers.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the balance of the jujitsu world or any of that.
He's just fighting for himself.
Yeah, for his own survival.
And it's interesting to think about how his actions impact both Gojo and Geto.
Yeah, totally.
Like, he forces Gojo to push himself beyond his limit.
Yeah, to unlock his full potential.
Right, and for Geto, it's like Toji's disregard for the rules becomes this like twisted inspiration.
Yeah, he's like, look, this guy doesn't play by the rules, and he's causing all this chaos. Maybe the rules aren't worth following.
Yeah, like Toji plants this seed of doubt in Geto's mind.
Totally.
And the comments on the Reddit post also brought up this really cool parallel with Kakashi Gaiden from Naruto.
Oh, yeah, I love Kakashi Kaiden.
Yeah, so both arcs are flashbacks that like dive into the backstories of these beloved mentors.
Right, and it shows how these past traumas and tragedies shaped who they are in the present.
Yeah, it's a really clever narrative structure.
And adds so much depth to the characters.
And it highlights how even with all the fantasy elements, Jujutsu Kaisen is still grounded in these like universal themes.
Yeah, like loss and trauma and the choice we make in the face of adversity.
Exactly. And speaking of choices, let's talk about that final scene with Gojo and Megumi.
Okay, the don't get left behind scene.
Yes.
So after defeating Toji, Dojo turns to Megumi and says, don't get left behind.
Yeah, and on the surface, it seems like he's just encouraging Megumi to get stronger.
Right.
But knowing everything that's happened, those words take on a whole new meaning.
It's almost like a plea for Megumi to avoid the same fate as Geto.
Right, like don't fall into despair and disillusionment.
Don't give up on the world.
Yeah, remember this scene, guys, because Gojo's words here foreshadow a lot of the struggles you'll see play out in the rest of the series.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's like he sees that Mogami could be susceptible to that darkness.
Yeah.
You know, he lost his mom at a young age.
Yeah.
And he's got like the whole Zenin clan legacy weighing him down.
Oh, for sure.
So he's urging Megumi to find his own way, to not be defined by like expectations or the tragedies of the past.
It's a lot to put on a kid,
Yeah, for sure.
but also kind of speaks to Gojo's own internal struggle.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Like maybe he sees himself in Megumi a little bit,
Yeah.
recognizing that potential for greatness, but also the potential for darkness.
Right, because we've seen what happens when that power goes unchecked.
Exactly. And that brings us to that really thought-provoking question from the Reddit post.
Okay, hit me with it.
Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?
Whoa, that's a tough one.
It really makes you think about the nature of identity.
Yeah.
Like, is his strength just an attribute, or has it actually shaped who he is as a person?
Right, like did it create this confident, almost arrogant Gojo that we see?
Or was he always going to be that way?
Yeah, it's like the chicken or the egg.
Right, which came first, the power or the personality?
And this question goes beyond Gojo, too.
Yeah, you're right.
It applies to all the characters in this arc.
Think about Toji.
Yeah.
His heavenly restriction took away his cursed energy, but gave him those insane physical abilities.
Right.
Did that lack of cursed energy, like, push him towards becoming an assassin?
Or did it just amplify his anger towards the jujutsu world?
Right, and Riko,
Yeah.
even though she was born as a star plasma vessel.
A role that basically takes away all her choices.
Yeah, she still chooses to embrace life and experience the world on her own terms.
Even if it's just for a little while?
It's those moments of defiance that stand out.
Yeah.
They remind us that even in this crazy world of Jujutsu Kaisen.
It's the characters' choices that shape their destinies.
Yeah, and that's what makes them so compelling.
They're not just puppets of fate.
They're making difficult choices in a complex world.
The Hidden Inventory arc might be short, but it's packed with so much depth and emotion.
It really makes you think about power and responsibility.
And what it really means to be strong.
So we started by asking if this is one of the best arcs in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Right.
And honestly, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's just so well written.
The character development is amazing.
The themes are so complex.
And it leaves you with these questions that stick with you long after you finish reading.
So what can you take away from all this?
Well, I think the Hidden Inventory arc shows us that even in a world full of curses and sorcerers,
Yeah.
the most important battles are often the ones we fight within ourselves.
Right.
It's about facing our own demons.
Making tough choices.
And finding our own meaning in a world that can feel really chaotic and unfair.
And don't forget,
There's always more to explore,
more layers to peel back.
more perspectives to consider.
And keep an eye out for the anime adaptation of this arc.
Oh yeah, it's going to be epic.
All right, so until next time, keep those cursed spirits at bay.
And those minds sharp.
See you later.
See ya.